Welcome to the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show. Presented by the Michigan Nursery and Landscape Association. Now here's your Garden Show host, Dr. Bob Schutzki.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show, brought to you by the Michigan Nursery and Landscape Association. I'm Dr. Bob, your host for the 2021 gardening season. Tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. through August. We will share garden insights, feature guests from Michigan's green industry, and answer your questions submitted through PlantMichiganGreen.com Ask the Expert. Our hope is to make the most of your outdoor living experience. During the week, you can log on to PlantMichiganGreen.com, your landscaping and horticulture resource, to pose gardening questions, find a professional horticulturist, locate a retail garden center in your area, or become aware of the rewarding careers in Michigan's green industry. Today's show is sponsored by Ray Wiegand's Nursery in Macomb, Michigan, and we are pleased to have Erma Rhadigan of Ray Wiegand's with us after a short break. So stick around and get into the gardening groove on the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Welcome back. We are pleased to have Erma Rhadigan of Ray Wiegand's Nursery with us. Erma will tell us about Ray Wiegand's butterfly house and how to attract and nurture these natural beauties to your gardens. Hi Erma, thanks for joining us on the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show. Tell us all about butterflies in the butterfly house at Wiegand's.
Hi Bob. Thank you for letting me join you. And yes, we have a butterfly house at Ray Wiegand's Nursery in Macomb, Michigan. It starts opening on June 12th. And it's open 7 days a week, 11 to 4. I have 2 ladies there and soon to be 3 that help and answer questions. My idea is to educate and teach people. It started off doing it with kids, and yet most adults are more interested than the children are.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm like a little kid in a candy shop, you know. I have a butterfly house at home. I raise my own butterflies to bring to the butterfly house. And I don't even go in the house. I just go right to that, and it just kind of mellows me out for the stressful day that I had.
There you go. That's a great stress relief.
Yeah.
So tell us all about what it takes to develop the butterfly house.
Well, every butterfly has its own host plant. A host plant is what the butterfly lays their eggs on. So if you want to keep butterflies in your garden as a homeowner, nectar plants are great. Pollinators, natives are better, but they're not as attractive as your fancy plants, but they have more pollen. But if you want to keep them in your yard, you just have to plant a few host plants, and those butterflies will come back continuously in your yard to lay their eggs. And then you can start looking for eggs and caterpillars, and the butterflies will stick around. Otherwise, you're just going to fly in, nectar, fly out.
So each butterfly have their own host plant?
Yes. You know, some have 2 or 3, but like monarchs only eat milkweed. So they will only lay eggs on milkweed. I have about 12 different species throughout the season. I have monarchs, black swallowtails, tiger swallowtails, spice bush, giants, pipevine swallowtails, buckeyes, American ladies, painted ladies, red admirals, question marks, commas, Baltimore checker spots. We carry some cecropia moths through the season, lunar moths, clearwing hummingbird moths, and cabbage whites, which are butterflies, but people call them cabbage moths. But they all have their own host plant.
How did you start these? Did you order them in as eggs, as caterpillars, as chrysalis? How does that all work?
As I started, all the swallowtails, they overwinter in a chrysalis. So at the end of the season, most butterflies start migrating September, October, they're gone. But the swallowtails will go in a chrysalis, and I collect those chrysalis, and I overwinter them in my garage. My friends taught me how to do it. My one friend, Brenda, she puts them on a cookie sheet and puts them out in her garage. And they just have to stay cool. And once in a while, you have to just spritzer them with water just to keep them moist so they don't dry out. And then the other ones, I know a patch of plantain, which is a host plant for a Baltimore checker spot. And I collected a bunch of Baltimore checker spots. Some to put in my butterfly house, some to put in the one at home, and some to start my own colony of Baltimore checker spots in my yard, because I have a butterfly garden too.
Which host plant is that again for that?
Baltimore checker spot is plantain. It's a weed.
Oh, the wheat. Okay, right.
Yeah, and then it also hosts on white turtlehead. And so monarchs host on milkweed. Tiger swallowtails will host on tulip tree or sweet bay magnolia. Black swallowtails host on dill and fennel, rue. Spicebush swallowtail is really cool looking. He hosts only on spicebush, lindera.
Oh, wow.
In the south, they host on citrus trees, which the fruit growers don't like, but they also host on rue. Dutchman's pipe is the host plant for pipevine swallowtails. You've got all your other American ladies, painted ladies, red admirals, question marks and commas will do hop and silver brocade artemisia and pearly everlasting and hollyhocks. So you can make a beautiful garden and still have it really nice for the butterflies. And of course, pollinators for the bees and the butterflies.
Do you have any books at the garden center about the butterflies that people can pick up and learn all this information from?
Yes, I have a good friend of mine, Brenda Diezik. She has a book, Raising Butterflies in the Garden. She started Barson's greenhouse, and they have a butterfly house, and she really educated me on it. And she has this book. It's an easy read. It has pictures from egg, chrysalis, caterpillar to adult, what they look like, how many days they're in. I still go to this book yearly to reference it. Excellent book. And I have other books too, and I sell habitats. So if you want to get started in your garden, just start little, like black swallowtail is about the easiest one. You can put dill. I have all different size habitats. So if you just want to start, or the kids want to just start a little bit, we give away caterpillars to educate the people and show them how to do it. And then we ask for donations, and I donate the money to monarchs and their people in the Serapalone Mountains, where the monarchs migrate to. I went there, and it was awesome.
Did you see them all clustered and huddled on the trees?
All clustered, and then during the day, we were on high horseback, and they take you up the mountains. You have a guide. I had an 8-year-old boy was my guide. His name was Eric. And you're on horseback, and they take you up the mountains to these switchbacks, back and forth, up this mountain on horseback. It's about a 2-hour ride. And you get up there, and on the way up, I'm like, what is that? And I look, and it was just like a whitewater rapids of monarchs coming down the mountain switchback in the sun. And they come down to nectar during the day, and then they go back up on the fir trees and the pine trees to overwinter. And I'm donating the money to them because they have a hotel there, a bed and breakfast. It's J&M's Bed and Breakfast up in the Serapalone Mountains. Anyway, I met the family, and they have beautiful rooms, and they have a swimming pool now. I haven't been there since the swimming pool, a restaurant. I want to go there again. You can spend 4 or 5 days there, and it's just beautiful scenery. It's out in the country, very nice people, very clean. You just go up these mountains and not only see the butterflies, but just meet the people and their culture and what they do and how they make things. It's very, very neat.
Well, cool. Hold those thoughts. We need to take a short break. So stay tuned for more with Erma Rhadigan and the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show on News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to more of the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show with your host, Dr. Bob Schutzki.
Welcome back. We're here with Erma Rhadigan of Ray Wiegand's Nursery and have been talking about butterflies. So tell us more, Erma. I
just wanted to talk to you about how cool, not only are the butterflies beautiful, but the caterpillars are very, very cool looking. The spicebush swallowtail, it only lays eggs on spicebush, but that caterpillar, it looks like it has 2 giant eyes with a smiley face. Kind of like, I'm old, so Cecil the dinosaur kind of looks like that.
Yeah, right.
He's very cool looking. And then the pipevine swallowtail, what I was told, and I'm not sure if it's true, but on Alice in Wonderland, that caterpillar that's smoking that pipe and the smoke's coming out,
right.
It's a pipevine swallowtail, and it looks like that. The antennas on that caterpillar looks just like that character in Alice in Wonderland, and it's a pipevine swallowtail. And it only feeds on Dutchman's pipe and another kind of vine, but I can't remember the other vine's name. It's a ground cover, but I can't ever get it to overwinter in my butterfly house. The monarchs, it hangs upside down in a J form when it's ready to go into chrysalis. And then the giant swallowtail on the roux, it looks like bird droppings to disguise itself so the birds don't eat it. It looks like bird poop. So
That's great.
it's like you show people that and they go, ooh, and I go, that's the caterpillar, So we just show people and they find it interesting. And some people come in and just take photos there. And a lot of people ask me if I sell the butterflies for weddings or funerals. I do not. I recommend them to Michigan Native Butterfly Farm. Tamara's a good friend of mine. She raises them, and then she sells them to butterfly exhibits, like the one up north in the UP at Mackinac Island.
Oh,
one.
Mackinac
I haven't
Island?
gone there
Yeah,
yet.
right,
Yeah, I met
yeah.
the owner. He was very cool. We started talking butterflies.
Yeah, we had one of our students did an internship with the butterfly house up there.
Yeah. Also, the butterflies have a lot of nectars, nectar plants. So that helps with pollination. And I will have some natives. I don't have as many as I've had in the past because I don't sell that many and I have to educate myself better on the native plants. I'm carrying most of the host plants and a few of the natives that I thought were pretty cool. Anyway, I'm carrying some natives, and then I'm trying to get, this year has been a crazy year for products. So some of the products I'm sold out of or I'm trying to get in the second crop's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't find any pipe vine for the pipe vine swallowtail. I have a lot of plants inside to feed my caterpillars, but if somebody wants to take some home, I don't have a lot of plants to sell. So I can't give them the caterpillar unless I give them the host plant or sell them the host plant.
You mentioned Lindera. Do you carry spice bush at the garden center?
I've only got about 10 right now, and I'm supposed to get another crop, another availability in mid-June. I should have enough Lindera, I'm hoping. It needs protection. It doesn't winter well in a windy, cold location, but in a backyard with a fence in a small yard, it would do fine. And they're not cheap. And also the viburnum, blueberry muffin is the name of one viburnum. It's the Viburnum dentatus, which is a species. That's what the clear-winged hummingbird lays its eggs on. Not all the different kind of viburnums, only that kind.
Oh, that's
And then,
great, right?
Yeah, so we carry blueberry muffin. So if I run out of the regular dentatum, they can get that. And the same with willow. A lot of butterflies lay on willow, and then we carry the Luna moths, the Cropia moths, the ones that get huge and giant. They're really cool, but we put some caterpillars in there, the coolest caterpillar, the red, yellow, green, blue. They get almost the size of a hot dog. That's how big they are. They just
Right.
devour that birch tree in there, a little one. I keep it small because my butterfly house is like 30 feet by 30 feet, maybe 35, 40 feet by 30 feet. So they devour that bush. But it's so cool when the kids see that. They're like, wow.
I really enjoy Lindera. In fact, we had some big ones on campus, and where I grew up in New Jersey, there was Lindera as well. And so I'm gonna take a ride down and get a couple for my landscape because
check out the leaves.
Right. Yeah. When we taught Lindera in the classroom, that was a scratch and sniff plant, and so we'd go up to it and say, okay, how are you going to identify it? We would go scratch a little bit of the branch and let them sniff, and if they did it once, then they would never forget that plant.
Yeah, I have this red admiral and the commas lay on itchweed, and I live out in the sticks, so I have itchweed in the back of the property. And when they start laying their eggs, I can teach people what they look like because I had no idea until Brenda and Tamara from Michigan Native Butterfly Farms and Barson showed me what to look for. And I'm like, they're webbed up in there. I'm like, ooh, a spider got them. I'm going to open the web and protect them. And it's not. That's what they do to protect themselves from the butterfly. But I was in there and I was collecting them like a kid in a candy store, and I itched so bad. I just live and learn, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, that's interesting to me that once you went down this road, the different plants that you brought into the garden center, because these wouldn't be typical plants that somebody would be looking for to put into their landscape.
No, not at all. Tulip tree is a host plant also for the tiger swallowtail, and it's a beautiful tree. And so is the sweet bay magnolia. I'm in the potted tree area, and I'm bending down those trees looking for for the tiger swallowtail caterpillar, just to show customers, and they get huge. So I'm always looking around, trying to find the caterpillars. It's like hunting gold or a treasure, you know.
Right.
I found 5 eggs on dill yesterday. I was like, woohoo!
Sweet Bay Magnolia is another good one. It's a native. It's a native where I grew up, and the flowers are really nice. And then people quite often when I show that to people, they think it's a rhododendron because of the texture and the shape of the leaves.
Yeah, we have them in our display garden along our butterfly house. We have one, and I'm always going through it and looking for the caterpillars.
Yeah.
And then there's predators. There's parasitic wasp. I thought one year I'll just let the butterflies go, get the egg caterpillar, let them go to chrysalis, and they'll just hatch out, and magically I'll have all these butterflies, and I didn't have to do any work. And so I'm looking at them like, gosh, it's been over a month. And so I look up there, and there's a hole in each one of my chrysalis, and it was a parasitic wasp got in there.
Oh.
And they lay an egg on the caterpillar right before it goes into the cocoon. So I'm always watching for the predators, and spiders are a predator in the butterfly house. So they're not welcome. Spiders are not welcome in my butterfly house. You can't come in. And if you do, you're in trouble. And and then even ants, they'll eat the eggs, or aphids. So I have to be very careful and very vigilant on protecting them. In the wild, a monarch will lay 200 to 400 eggs. Only 2 to 4 will survive because of Mother Nature. So, yeah. And then on our website, we have a host plant list. That's the plants the butterflies lay their eggs on, and what butterflies. And then we have nectar plants. Those are plants that we carry that the butterfly nectars off of. And then I still don't have my natives in there because I'm still getting educated on those. I also have monarch way station paper. You just have to put a certain amount of pollinators and milkweed in the garden, and then they send you a plaque, and you can designate your garden to a monarch way station. And that's to protect, that money goes to for research and protect the monarchs. And also the money that I ask for donations for the caterpillars, that money's going to the butterflies and their people, again, to protect that forest that I went to in Sierra Pelone Mountains, and to also hire arborists, and they protect the area where the monarchs are migrating in the Sierra Pelone Mountains, and also to hire the people to help with the switchback, the trails, to clean the trails, and also the tour guides going up the mountains. All that money helps that small village. It's just an awesome place to go. I highly recommend it.
It's amazing all the information that you were able to provide for us, and so I'll encourage people to go to your website, the Ray Wiegand's Nursery website, or better yet, visit the Butterfly House and again, see this firsthand. So thanks for joining us today, Erma, and again, we really appreciate all the information that you provided for the listeners.
Thanks, Bob, and you have a great day.
So stick around, because up next are some gardening insights on the PlantMichiganGreen.com gardening show right here on 760 WJR. Welcome back. Let's continue with a few thoughts on butterflies. And I certainly encourage you to take a trip out to Ray Wiegand's nursery and look at that butterfly house. Erma has done an amazing job in putting those things together, making sure that the information and the education that Ray Wiegand's provides is extremely useful if you want to develop your own butterfly garden. So again, we can't say enough about how we appreciate the information that Erma brought to us. So let's continue a little bit about the monarchs. They're kind of interesting, and they're probably the most recognizable and well-studied butterflies, especially because of their famous migration from the United States and Canada to California and Mexico. The monarch is the only butterfly known to make a two-way migration, similar to many birds. Monarchs can't survive the cold winters, so when they sense the appropriate environmental cues, they start to head south. And they use a combination of air currents and thermals to travel. A monarch can travel between 50 and 100 miles a day and take approximately 2 months to reach their overwintering grounds. One monarch that was being researched recorded 265 miles in one day. And then many of the monarchs coming down from Canada will fly as many as 3,000 miles before they reach their wintering overwintering grounds. The monarchs in eastern North America overwinter in the Sierra Madres mountains of Mexico, and the monarchs in the western part of the United States in the Rockies overwinter in California. And when they arrive in their winter grounds, they look for those fir forests at elevations roughly 2 miles above sea level. They like the humidity, the cooler temperatures, and the protection that they get from the fir trees with the evergreen foliage and how it, again, protects them from predators. As the temperatures warm and the days lengthen in the spring, they begin their migration north. The adults that overwinter will begin to breed and lay eggs for a new generation. The scientists call that Generation 1, and Generation 1 is the offspring that monarchs have from the monarchs that have overwintered. Each successive generation travels closer to their summer grounds, and it takes roughly 3 to 4 generations to reach their northern U.S. or Canadian summer grounds. Monarchs typically live from 2 to 3 weeks, except for the last generation that can live up to 8 to 9 months, and this is the generation that makes the trek to the south. I was able to, a few years ago, I was in Minnesota for a meeting, and we went to a monarch trail site. In fact, it was one of the trail sites that was developed, as Erma talked about, with planting milkweed and other nectar plants. And as the butterflies are coming down from Canada, they stop at that site, they do their thing, and then continue down on these air currents and thermals. When the monarchs lay their eggs, like Erma said, they have to lay them on milkweed. So Asclepias is the genus, and it's important because the larva will only eat milkweed leaves, and each larva it's said that they can eat approximately 20 leaves. So if you're looking at encouraging monarchs in your area in the larva, make sure you have a decent amount of milkweed plants for them to forage on. The adult monarchs will feed on the nectar of many different plants, and as a result, they're a great pollinator. And so if you have nectar plants in your area and a few milkweeds, then you certainly are supporting the developing and the migrating monarchs. It was interesting to me when I was at that meeting because it was in the latter part of September, and the butterflies that we saw at that site were the ones that were making their way to Mexico. So if you ever see monarchs in the fall, okay, you can be assured that those are the ones that are going to wind up in those Sierra mountains in Mexico later on. And they say it takes roughly 2 months to make their trek. And again, kind of interesting to see that. And as Erma talked about, that bed and breakfast and the tourism that's associated with going and visiting the monarchs is really interesting. Like the butterflies, pollinators include birds, bats, bees, beetles, and sometimes small mammals. And these basically are our friends, and are said these organisms are responsible for bringing 1 out of every 3 bites of food to the table. And so it's the pollinators that do the pollination on a whole variety of flowering plants. They feed on the nectar, they feed on the pollen, and in turn, they provide us with the fruits, the seeds, and the vegetables that we put on our table. So if you want to encourage pollinators, you provide the plants with our flowering plants that will give them what they need, and they will help provide us what we need. The pollinators really enjoy the resources of all plants, annuals, herbaceous perennials, trees, and shrubs, and these pollinators sustain our ecosystem by helping plants to reproduce. So pollinators need our help. Add plant habitat to our green spaces and communities. Home gardens attract pollinators. Suburban and urban landscapes can contribute significantly to pollinators. So plant a plant, feed a pollinator. So stay tuned for more on the PlantMichiganGreen.com gardening show right after this short break on 760 WJR.
Now back to more gardening with your host, Dr. Bob Schutzki, on the PlantMichiganGreen.com gardening show. Here's Dr. Bob.
Welcome back. We've had a few comments that have come in to PlantMichiganGreen.com, Ask the Expert, and I'd like to share some of those with you. Several of them are from contracting friends, and they wanted to share information that they've come across while they're out doing their jobs in your landscapes. A contracting friend, Robert, asked me to mention a tip about cutting grass in during high temperatures. Okay, one of the things that he saw, the high temperatures that we received in the last week or two, those high 80s and 90-degree temperatures, caused a problem on people who are cutting their grass too short. So the thoughts are, do not cut your grass too short during these periods of hot weather. The tendency is to cut the grass shorter in the 2 to 2.5 inch range during the summer months, with the thought, if I cut it shorter, I don't have to cut it as often. But the problem that occurs in hot weather in the high 80s and 90s is that the grass can be stressed and will start to brown when it's cut too short. And this can even occur with irrigation. So when it's hot, adjust the wheel height in your mowers to give you a cut in the 3-inch plus range, and then you can lower it back when the temperatures cool off. Another contracting friend, Jerry, mentioned that he had noticed people edging their turf with string trimmers. String trimmers tend to scalp the edges along curbs, sidewalks, driveways, and etc. And when that scalping occurs, it gives rise to weeds to develop at the expense of the turf. So if you have to edge, do it with a power edger or with a flat shovel like many of us old school horticulturists do. Anytime we scalp the turf, it allows the weed seeds to germinate readily, and in many cases that will outcompete the new regenerating turf grass. String trimmers also contribute to what we call is trimmer blight at the base of trees and shrubs. Trimmer blight is when the string trimmers are used to cut grass at the base of trees and shrubs. It is falsely thought that the plastic trimmer string won't harm the plants. However, the force of the string can scar the base of the plants, and continued scarring can lead to trunk decay. So keep string trimmers away from the base of plants. I received a picture of the worst mulch volcano I have ever seen from my friend Danny. It was around the beautiful Japanese maple. The tree is already showing signs of stress and will continue to decline unless it is corrected. A little mulch is a good thing, a lot is bad. So I think it's time to initiate a mulch volcano patrol and send them out into the countryside, saving trees from unknowing TLC. Okay, here's a couple of interesting pieces of information that I came up with this past week. According to nutritionists at Loughborough University in England, mowing, digging, and planting for 2 to 3 hours can help burn up to 1 pound. And so if you're interested in exercising and losing some weight, get out there and work in your gardens, because it can contribute to your weight loss. Just a half hour of weeding can burn up to 150 calories. And heavier tasks like hedge trimming can burn over 400 calories per hour. Raking and bagging leaves uses anywhere from 350 to 450 calories per hour. And mowing the lawn, that's it with a push mower, can burn up to 250 to 350 calories per hour. Gardening can also cultivate feelings of empowerment and connection and creative calm. Isn't that interesting? if you can develop creative calm by being out in your garden. So be healthy and happy, garden. Erma mentioned a few host plants that were very important to individual butterfly species. Here are a few popular herbaceous and woody plants worth considering. American painted ladies like daisies and Artemisia silver brocade. Artemisia is a silver-leafed perennial, very attractive, and apparently the American painted ladies like it. Baltimore checkered spots like turtleheads. The common turtlehead has white flowers, but there's a beautiful pink cultivar called Hot Lips, and I'm sure they'll love that one too. Mallows and hollyhocks are favorites of the common checkered skippers, gray hair streaks, and painted ladies. And hollyhocks is one of those old school or old world perennials that's very tall, very beautiful, and just full of flowers. 3 species of fritillaria butterflies are attracted to violets. And the 3 different species, it's interesting about violets, very low growing, but again, very attractive plants. There's also a whole group of trees and shrubs that are host to various butterflies. In fact, many of these may be already in your landscapes. Some of the most common hosts are willows, and there's a wide variety of willow shrub species that could be very, very easily added to your landscape. You don't have to think of that large weeping willow as the only willow that will attract these butterflies. Cherry trees are a favorite, and dogwoods, both the tree and the shrub species. And so our popular dogwoods are flowering dogwood, pagoda dogwood, Japanese or kusa dogwood, but there's a whole host of shrub species that have beautiful white flowers and again attract these butterflies. Birch trees are another one that a lot of different butterflies like to host on. And then also a large selection of viburnums. And the viburnums are a shrub species. Most of them are large, but there's a few compact and dwarf viburnums that can attract these people or attract these butterflies as well. And it's important to visit the Ray Wiegand's website, and you can go to the Butterfly House the pages in the Butterfly House, and there's a lot of very useful information. While we're talking about plants, I would like to share some information about a distinct group of plants known as plants for all seasons. A plant for all season is one that provides a changing ornamental display with each season. The key word in the definition is changing. Many people mistake evergreens for falling into this category, thinking that their foliage constitutes 4 seasons of ornamental appeal. Although these plants are green all year round, green is usually their dominant ornamental quality. To be considered a true plant for all seasons, the plant should have distinctly different ornamental characteristics in each season. 4 distinctly different characteristics. The usual sequence is a spring flower, summer foliage color or developing fruit, fall foliage color, and winter branch color and or persistent fruit. 4 distinctly different characteristics. Here are some examples. The 4 dogwood trees, 2 of which are natives, flowering dogwood and pagoda dogwood, Japanese dogwood, and many know it as kusa dogwood, and the cornelian cherry dogwood, each has beautiful flower displays. 3 of them in spring, and pagoda in late spring or early summer. The summer foliage is glossy green with developing fruit. Fall foliage varies with the species, red, burgundy, and yellow, and 3 of the species have colorful fruit in the fall, and each possess an interesting branch and bark characteristics. So you get 4 distinctly different ornamental display characteristics in each of these dogwood trees. Serviceberry and eastern redbud also gives us 4 distinct ornamental characteristics with flowers, fruit, fall colors, summer foliage colors, and some interesting branch characteristics in the winter. There's also a whole bunch of shrubs in this category, including red and black chokeberry, calethra or summersweet, Oregon grape holly, which is an evergreen, and then blueberries. Oregon grape holly is an evergreen species that has beautiful kind of burgundy-like leaves when they come out in spring. They have a yellow flower, blue-black fruit, and very glossy dark green leaves in the summer. And as the fall approaches, the leaf color goes burgundy again, and then the fruit are persistent through the winter. And so there's not very many evergreens that fall into this category, but Oregon grape holly is one of the special ones. And as we talked about before, blueberries, the high bush blueberry is an interesting plant with spring flowers, beautiful summer fruit, fall color, a brilliant red fall color, and then the red stems in the winter. But again, when you're looking and you're shopping for plants, before settling on a plant, think about the plant and what it has to offer in each of the 4 seasons. There's another group of plants that designers hold in high regards, and these can be their favorites or sometimes referred to as signature plants. A signature plant is one that designers use in special cases. It may be in the perfect location. It may be for a client who really appreciates the plants and what they have to offer. It may be a showstopper or an attention getter when it's at least expected. It may be for what it brings to mind when it is seasons. It may be a plant for all seasons, but not necessarily true. Each designer has one. Some have more than one. Some designers or horticulturists may refer to these as their favorites, but in any case, these plants are special. Don't forget to visit our website, plantmichigangreen.com, and click on Ask the Expert to submit your landscape and gardening questions. You may hear your question and answer on the air. And remember to tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. through August for the best information and advice to maximize your outdoor living experience. And during the week, log on to plantmichigangreen.com, your landscaping and horticulture resource, to find a professional, a retail garden center, pose your gardening questions, or explore rewarding careers in the green industry. That's all for this week. I'm Dr. Bob, wishing you sunshine, a little rain. Well, wait, let me rephrase that. Wishing you sunshine, a good soaking rain, and happy gardening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk again.
You've been listening to the PlantMichiganGreen.com Gardening Show with Dr. Bob Schutzki, presented by the Michigan Nursery and Landscape Association.